Grace and peace here, Church from our Lord Jesus Christ, to all of you this Sunday. And thank you so much to the acolytes and Asha for that seamless transition in our worship service. Thank you so much for being part of our worship service this morning, and thank you again for the bell choir for a wonderful rendition. It's always a blessing to be able to enjoy your music. Now today is the last Sunday of a three-part sermon series on the ELCA WorldHunger. We have been talking about that, and by we I have been talking about that for 3 weeks. ELCA WorldHunger, when we have been looking at at some of the issues concerning the ELCA WorldHunger from our church. So we talk about hunger among us in the country here in America. 40 million people live in poverty. That's 40 million people. To put it into perspective, I'm from Chile. In Chile, there are 15 million people altogether. Here we have 40 million people just living in poverty. ELCA WorldHunger. Not only hunger here in our midst, but also in the world. And we've been talking about the people in the Bahamas. People who have been hit by Hurricane Dorian and the efforts of Lutheran disaster response and the Lutheran Church at large. And we talked about last week how churches in Florida are sending supplies and help to the Bahamas. And lastly, the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, that encourages us to be God's hands. The motto is God's work, our hands. So how can we be of use to the gospel? How can we be engaged in issues of hunger? How can we be a blessing in those places that are in need? So this is the last Sunday of a three-part sermon series on the ELCA WorldHunger. And this gospel for this Sunday, Matthew 25, is very dear and near to me, because I know exactly when and where I was the first time I ever heard it. You know, sometimes there's some things in our life that we remember forever, when we were, where we were, and when was it. For me, this Bible text, Matthew 25, is one of those moments in my life that I know exactly years later when and where I was when I heard it first. I remember that I heard this gospel for the very first time when I was 21 years old at a meeting for a mission trip for college students that will happen that summer. And I was sitting there with my fellow young people getting ready for the trip, and the leader was speaking about our mission. What are we going to do? And she said, we're going to feed the hungry, we're going to give water to the thirsty, welcome the stranger, to clothe the naked, care for the sick, and visit those in prison. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, that's a lot. And then she cued a PowerPoint slide with Matthew 25 on the wall, today's gospel. I was shocked. I've never heard this gospel before. I thought she was talking about wishful thinking. Next thing I know, there's a Bible quote on the wall. This stuff is in the Bible, and I have never heard about it before. As you may know, at church we have a 3-year lectionary, meaning that this gospel will not be heard again in 3 years. So this gospel is read once every 3 years. And at that time, I used to go to church once every 3 years too, but it was never the same Sunday. I was shocked. Who knew? I felt that I was old enough. I was 21. I've been in church more than once. I knew some Bible text. I knew John 3:16. Any football fan wants to give testimony? John 3:16, for God so loved the world. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so whoever believes in him may not perish, but may have eternal life. John 3:16, you can find in every football game on television. I also knew Psalm 23, verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd. I was 21, so my confirmation time wasn't so far behind me, so I did remember the most Lutheran of Bible verses, Romans 1:17. Do we have a witness? You see, confirmation 2.0, you're ready. You are ready for confirmation 2.0. That's a confirmation class for adults, those who have been confirmed for over 20 years, and you remember Romans 1:17. We're going to meet at church, in the library, 9 o'clock, every Sunday before church. We're going to study Luther's large catechism. Let me share with you Romans 1:17. For the righteous shall live by faith. Thank you. The righteous shall live by faith. That's the Bible verse in Romans that Martin Luther read, and the light went on and said, this is it. When I said, this is it. And of course I knew my own confirmation Bible verse, that in my case it's Psalm 40 verse 4. Happy are those who make the Lord their trust. But Matthew 25, I did not know. I was shocked. I have never heard it before, and it shook me. I was inspired by the words and ashamed. I have never heard it before. I was excited by the command and perplexed by how straightforward it was. I was jubilant by the higher purpose and profoundly moved by what's already happening in my heart. I have already signed up for this mission trip. I was going. I signed up for a church mission trip as a church member, as an opportunity for young people to be engaged. But that day, listening to this gospel, I realized that a mission trip and helping the poor and feeding the hungry and the thirsty, visiting the sick and those in prison wasn't something that I did. It was who I was. It is not what I do, it is who I am. I am a child of God. I belong to God. I am God's hands in this world. And this is us. This is the testimony of the church of all time and in all places. It's not what we do, it's who we are. It's not what we do, it is who we are, because it doesn't matter how small the church, it doesn't matter how poor the church, in any church, there's someone collecting food for the hungry. Try me. Go around when you go on vacation, go to another church, your church shopping this morning, and ask, is there any food collection in this church? And I bet you, there is. No matter how small, no matter how poor, someone is collecting food for the hungry in that church. It is not what we do. It is who we are. Because it doesn't matter how troubled, it doesn't matter how dire the circumstances in a church may be, there's always someone keeping an eye on the shadows. There's always someone keeping an eye on the sick. It doesn't matter how troubled, doesn't matter how a mess there is in the congregation on Sunday morning, there's always someone caring for those who are sick or those who are older. It's not what we do, it is who we are. It doesn't matter how busy and how big and large a congregation becomes, there's always someone caring for the widow and for the brokenhearted. In any congregation, there's always someone sending a card. I'm thinking of you. No matter how big or how large or how successful or how busy the congregation is, there's always someone sending a prayer note to the widow and the brokenhearted. Caring. It's not what we do, it is who we are. And in this church, we give testimony of exactly that. And when you come to church here, there's Blanket Sunday, and there's Super Bowl Sunday, and there's a collection to send kids from Camden to camp, and the quilters quilt And the knitters pray and knit. And on Monday mornings, we have the job search team meeting here for those who are transitioning from work. And we continue with our care ministry. And those who can cook, cook. Those who can drive, drive. Those who can pray, pray. And we all care, and we all support, and we all are part of this church. It is not what we do, it is who we are. We are children of God. We belong to God. We are God's hands in this world. That summer when I was in college, going to that mission trip, we ended up going to one of the poorest areas back in Chile where I'm from. And with the young adults, the kids from church, we built homes, we fixed roofs, we arranged for VBS or activities for children in that area. We prayed, we sang, we worshiped God. We had a great summer. One of the greatest things I've done in my life is to be in those small homes, wooden, prefabricated, trying to use a hammer and put a roof together for the first time as a young person. It was amazing. And it was amazing to see my other fellow young people doing the same thing with me and singing, church songs with the guitar in the evenings, enjoying the hospitality of people who had nothing, and out of their scarcity, they shared. Humble meals, nothing fancy, small village, very, very poor, small Catholic church, a couple of Pentecostal churches and homes, not much to see, but wonderful people nonetheless. This is what we do as churches. This is what we do as Christians. We go to places, and in the name of Jesus Christ the Lord, we try to fix them up. We go to places, and in the name of Jesus Christ the Lord, we try to improve them. We go to places, and we say, we belong to God, we are God's hands, and we are here to help. We are the people of the resurrection. Wherever there is a need, we want to provide. Wherever there is distress, we want to bring peace. Wherever there is despair, we want to bring hope. Wherever there is death, we want to bring life. This is who we are. This is what the church does. And in these villages in southern Chile, when I was in college, not only you saw poverty, but you also saw domestic violence. And we saw single mothers trying to raise 4 or 5 children. And you saw men, young men, looking around with no future, no hope, no opportunities. What to do now? Hanging around. And we as a church went and said, we belong to God, we are God's hand, and we're here to bring a word of hope. We bring here to bring a word of faith. It was years later, 2 years later, youth group, young adults now, hanging out, and all of a sudden, we see a new face. Who's this? She felt absurd, of course, so she reminded us. She said, I met you all at my village 2 years ago. And then, that's right. You're Maria. What a wonderful surprise. What are you doing here? I said, well, I graduated from high school. My parents were able to send me to college. So here I am. We live in a college town back home. So I just looked you up in the yellow pages. I know, it's back in the day, no internet. So yellow pages it is, Lutheran Church, my town, phone number, I called. They told me youth group met Friday night, so I decided to come. We were all smiles and hugs and kisses. That's great. And then when everything settled down, we wonder, but still, why are you here? I mean, this is youth group on a Friday night. And she said, well, I'm here because you visited me. I'm here because you came to my house and fixed my roof. I'm here because when you came to my town, I saw the presence of the living God. And I never forgot. So as soon as I had a chance to be with you again, I took the bus, walked over here, and here I am. Thank you for coming to me. Thank you for fixing my family home. Thank you for sharing your faith. It is not what we do, it's who we are. It's not what we do. It's God's work. It's God's word. It's our hands. God's word, our hands. Amen.